It's time for another field guide. As separated from the normal story-driven books as they are, the first field guide was a joy to read in my case, so I'm happy to revisit the concept for this entry. This one, however, may be a slight challenge to convey in the spoken word because of its reliance on another, more visual medium. Cats of the Clans came out on June 24th, 2008, 2 months after Outcast and Warrior's Return, and the same day as another standalone manga that I will be covering in the next episode. It was written by Victoria Holmes this time, and, importantly, illustrated by Wayne McLaughlin. McLaughlin was the main cover artist for 4.5 Warriors arcs, more than a decade of Warriors history. However, in 2015, he passed away, and many of his work on the covers has since been replaced with re-release covers primarily done by Owen Richardson. I mention this because Cats of the Clans is built on its illustrations more than any other non-manga book. These were the first official renderings of several characters and are still widely known and recognized as who the characters are truly to this day. Considering I rarely show the covers of books within these episodes, it felt especially important to show off some of this art now to give recognition to McLaughlin's well-loved work. That being said, this book is divided into different clans as Secrets of the Clans was, and gives page-long descriptions of each cat it covers, along with showing a vibrant and detailed illustration of the cat on the adjacent page. For anyone who appreciates the visuals of the stories they read, this book may be far more fun for you to look at yourself than to hear me talk about. With that said, it begins with the framing device for the book. 3 StarClan kits meet Rock, the cat who Fallen Leaves met when he went down into the tunnels before he died, and who told J-Paw to go to the mountains. The first kit is Moss Kit, Blue Star's daughter and Mistyfoot and Stonefor's sister. Wait a moment, sister? While we didn't know their name before, Blue Star explicitly used he-him pronouns in reference to her third kit, who died on the way to RiverClan. So, yes, for anyone who is curious, the book that retconned Moss Kit's gender was Cats of the Clans, of all things. Anyway, the other 2 kits here are Adder Kit, a WindClan Tom who apparently died to a snake which became his namesake, and Blossom Kit, a ShadowClan kit who died in battle under Broken Star in an effort to become an early warrior. Rock promises to tell the 3 kits the stories of many cats in the clans, but also those outside the clans, as he doesn't think much of the clan's general arrogance, believing they are the center of the world. Beginning with ThunderClan, and after mentioning that the Hunter's Crouch is a ThunderClan-specific technique, Rock first tells us about Firestar. The fiery Tom is described as a champion who has long since moved past his kitty pet roots. Rock wishes for him to have a long life, but immediately laughs at the notion because he already knows how each of Firestar's lives will be lost. Moving on to Blue Star, with heavy emphasis on Moss Kit's connection to her, Rock says she was a great leader who paid a steep price to become leader instead of Thistleclaw, and acted as a mother figure to Firestar in their stead. He's sure to emphasize the sacrifices she made at the beginning and end of her leadership to explain her behavior in the last moons of her life. Greystripe, meanwhile, is described as every cat's friend, torn away from his friends and clan when he left for RiverClan with his kits. Rock is also rather complimentary of Millie and her unacknowledged achievements in getting Greystripe back. Sandstorm is a loyal mate and mother, but Rock points out that she should be remembered as much more than that, since it was Sandstorm who pushed Firestar into much of the heroics he managed to accomplish, and she matched him paw step for paw step on their journey to rescue SkyClan, even being the clan's medicine cat until they found their own, and saving Firestar's body when he was killed by the rats. Yellowfang's life and connection to Blossom Kit are summarized briefly, and Rock mentions that while she was stubborn and grumpy, she was the most loyal cat you could ever meet, brave as well, and someone who blamed herself for Broken Star's evil deeds. Cinderpelt is explicitly called out as a cat who should have been a warrior, and whose fate shocked even StarClan, implying that cats do, at large, have general overarching destinies. It is also called out that she doesn't have an especially strong connection with StarClan, a confirmation of a theory based on her misinterpretation of the Fire and Tiger omen. And Rock implies that her being told about her own death before being reincarnated as Sorreltail's kit was actually a test to show she was deserving of her next life. Rock doesn't necessarily know what StarClan was actually thinking, but if that was the reason they told her, that's a little messed up, guys. On to someone with an even worse relationship with her ancestors, though, because Rock next tells us about Leafpool. Oh, and also that Blossom Kit wanted to be a medicine cat like her. Rock talks about her magical connection with Squirrel Flight, her receiving the blood will spill blood prophecy, and then immediately jumps into blaming her for her relationship with Crowfeather that her ancestors could never have approved of. You know, except when they came down on 2 different occasions and directly set them up together. Rock doesn't mention that part for some reason. Squirrel Flight is lauded for her fiery spirit, sharp tongue, and strong morals, though Rock also briefly implies that she has some sort of secret. Rock then moves on to talking about her as a companion for Brambleclaw, or even Stormfur, and then Ashfur, pointing out that he totally would have been loyal to the end, and simply didn't appreciate her strength enough for her to like him back. This page also has a line, famous to me, that Squirrelflight needed someone to match her fire, not contain it, and that cat was always going to be Brambleclaw. Famous because it's poetic nonsense that doesn't actually get at whether they are matching wits playfully or arguing all the time. Rock also says that she's been a great mother to our current protagonists, and he hopes she is rewarded for that devotion. Okay, we'll see about that one. Brambleclaw's story is framed as that of a tragic but noble, loyal, and brave cat who led the clans to safety and acted as the leader of the Sundrown Place journey, and yet who also let Tigerstar train him in his dreams with Hawkfrost. Rock asks if he is truly as good-hearted as he wants cats to believe, and says he already knows the answer, but won't tell the kits. Ashfur is up next, and to Rock, it is a shame that he will always be spoken of in relation to Squirrelflight and Brambleclaw, when he is a strong and brave warrior that Rock himself would want at his side. Rock gives him a lot of credit as Lionpaw's mentor and defends him in comparison to Dustpelt, who didn't particularly like Fireheart, but who is a strong warrior now. He also says more cats should listen to his side of the story. Sure, buddy. Brightheart is also a cat Rock feels kinship with, as cats apparently shy away when they see his face too, and he is completely blind. Once upon a time he had thick fur and clear eyes, but those days passed a long time ago. We learn Brightheart never goes down to the lake because she doesn't like seeing her own reflection, and her first warrior name, Lostface, echoes in her mind when she is alone. Cloudtail alone saw the beauty and courage in her, and never flinched away, which Rock attributes to him also knowing what it's like to be different, as a kitty pet-born clan cat. And finally, on to our current protagonists. Rock describes Lionpaw as a fierce and skilled warrior, Hollypaw as a tactician deeply rooted in the warrior code, and Jaypaw as, I kid you not, the blind cat who can see in his dreams. Following this with the supposition that this means he couldn't be anything but a medicine cat. And that is also very not cool, Rock, not good. You mentioned personality and honed skills for both other protagonists, and for Jaypaw, all you could think of is his magic, his injury, and how those necessarily lead to his job. Please consider revising. It's at this point I should probably acknowledge that if you've read all the books up until now and remember the protagonists in them, this book will not give you much, if any, new information. The two things it will give are, first, some random tidbits of information to fill in gaps like the name, and I guess retcon gender, of Bluestar's third kit, and second, specifically Rock's perspective on each of these cats. This is not an objective guide on who the cats are at their hearts and what their stories are. What you are primarily learning from this book, if you already know these characters, and aside of course from the fantastic illustrated versions of each of them, is who Rock is and what his opinions are on the modern clan cats. Rock is an ancient and mysterious figure at this point in time, and random bits of lore like his ability to see the future or his connection to StarClan and his ability to speak with these three kits who explicitly wandered a long way from StarClan are interesting in that we get to learn more about him. Seeing as they've now brought up Rock's existence in 3 books, Dark River, Outcast, and now Cats of the Clans, it will be interesting to see if he gets any greater prominence later in the series. With that in mind, I'm going to speed up a little as we go into the other clans. Just know that Rock always has an opinion on every clan and cat he talks about, and they are absolutely never objective judgments of character. ShadowClan is known to be evil, and they nurture that reputation themselves, but with the least prey-rich land, they need to be willing to add whatever they can to their prey pile. They're mighty, fierce hunters, proud, independent, and willing to follow their leaders into anything, even less than savory endeavors. Tigerstar is ruthless, dangerous, ambitious, strong, and brave. Broken Star, who Rock has to comfort Blossom Kid at the name of, was doomed from birth, but, by Rock's testimony, killed Ragged Star as it was the only way to make his clanmates respect him. Rock also says that he didn't know that Ragged Star was his father, which, is not true. That is not the case. Even the previous field guide, Secrets of the Clans, showed a scene with Ragged Star handing Broken Kit to Lizardfang and immediately taking ownership of the kid as a father. Broken Star grew up entirely aware of who his father was, just not aware of who his mother was. Black Star is described as the first step in a long journey away from the reputations made by their previous leaders, as he tries to make ShadowClan proud and confident as one of the 4 clans at the lake. Rock defends him and his clanmates to Mosskit, saying that once again they have the least prey-rich territory, and that he shouldn't be punished for having pride in his clan. Tawnypelt is apparently a noble cat trying to be loyal to ShadowClan without any darkness of heart. Boulder was raised in BloodClan, Runningnose and Littlecloud are medicine cats, each with their own hard lives, and look, we're on to WindClan. Rock clarifies that WindClan is vulnerable due to the nature of their home, but that is not the same as weak. They are the closest to StarClan, and perhaps their ancestors have saved or favored them over the seasons. The cats tend to be suspicious and closed off to anyone outside their home, but they are exceptionally strong as a united force. On to the specific cats. Tallstar apparently killed the adder that killed Adder Kit, but otherwise his description is exactly what we would have guessed. Strong but preferring peace, open to relationships, suspicious of Mudclaw right at the end, leading him to make One Whisker his deputy. One Star, meanwhile, has been purposefully closed off to us for a while, and Rock describes him as a good cat who has been worn down and warped by power. Where he previously would have advocated for his friends in ThunderClan, he now believes he must be harsh for his clanmates to trust him after Mudclaw's coup attempt. So even though he misses Firestar, he will not let up on the pressure, and is often on the defensive, even in his own clan. Mudclaw was apparently made deputy because Tallstar wanted a contrast to his own leadership, and Rock also mentions he had no idea what Hawkfrost was trying to do when they joined together. Both new-ish pieces of information. Most of Crowfeather's page is stuff we already know, but interesting is the way that Rock talks about his relationship with Leafpool in comparison to the way he did on Leafpool's page. There, Rock framed it as a mistake on her part. Here, he wonders if it was a punishment from StarClan. Strange how the blame shifts from one party to another in the same relationship. Rock also frames Nightcloud and Breezepaw in a purely negative light, with the former being deemed bad-tempered and possessive, and the latter arrogant, volatile, and with little care about Cat's safety. And after a mostly hypothetical description of Heatherpaw's possible desires that provides no new information, we move on to RiverClan, the last of the four main clans. RiverClan are described as sleek and well-fed, but with a pride that borders on smugness and a physique and location too close to Two Legs and kitty pets, leading to several of them being mistaken for or taken prisoner as kitty pets by the nearby Two Legs in Greenleaf, something they preferred to keep secret. We learn more about Crooked Star here than ever before, that he broke his jaw in the Sunning Rocks that RiverClan had recently won back when he was a kit while playing with his littermates, that he always knew who Mistyfoot and Stonefur's real mother was, and an implication that if he was anything less than perfect after his injury, he might not have been welcome in RiverClan. Leopardstar, meanwhile, gets a repeat of what we already know, only with the tacked-on implication that she no longer trusts her judgment after the TigerClan debacle. Greypool, Mistyfoot, and Stonefur's page also provides almost nothing new to us, and in fact forgets to mention that Stonefur was Leopardstar's first deputy, skipping right to Mistyfoot and saying, from Rock, that she will succeed Leopardstar. Bit of a spoiler there, but I guess expecting anything in the leadership to change all the way across the lake is too much to ask, and it's good to know that Leopardstar will be leaving eventually. Silverstream is implied to have gained a good reputation primarily through her father, Crooked Star, rather than her own deeds. And she apparently saved Greystripe out of the convenience of not having a dead cat in the river rather than any immediate love or righteousness. Unsurprisingly, both Feathertail and Stormfur, who got a fair amount of focus in the last arc and never had complex personalities to begin with, don't get anything new here. Hawkfrost, however, at least gets some interest in the form of background. He always knew he wanted to take Leopardstar's place and trained harder than any other apprentice, even making his sister the medicine cat with a fake sign for the sake of getting more power for his family and reputation. Mothwing and Willowpaw, however, get little more than being medicine cats, one who doesn't believe in StarClan and the other who does. Outside the clans, Rock has a bit more to say, but other than spouting how valuable they can be, the only new thing we learned are that the clans make the distinction between loners and rogues by saying that loners don't cause problems and rogues do, but also that loners more often live alone or in smaller groups, and rogues often live in larger groups. Ravenpaw and Barley, Princess and Smudge, Brook and Talon, along with Stoneteller of the tribe, Cloudstar and Skywatcher, Leafstar, Echosong, and Sharpclaw, and Scourge and Bone all get pages here, but none of them say anything other than the stories we knew of already. At this point, Rock tells the kittens to sleep well and remember both the great heroes and enemies of the clan's past, as they all deserve to be remembered. Rock says this. Okay. Nothing now, but just remember that for a while later. Now, with this being a guidebook, it is understandable for most readers to come in with the expectation of more objective information about the world or cats in it that they haven't seen before. However, the vast majority of the truly objective material shown in this book is information we already knew well before, if we have been keeping up with the series. What we do get in this book, once again, in addition to the gorgeous art, which is reason enough to give it a look, are heavy biases from Rock about almost every cat, Bias is not wholly well-founded in other material. This on its own wouldn't be an issue, but it is interesting with hindsight to note how his biases are doled out, perhaps unfairly, to justify some cats' wrongdoings, spin gray area situations to give total moral high ground to one character over the other, and overall put more blame on she-cats than toms for the very same actions. It is also worth noting that this book was written exclusively by Victoria Holmes, the main mind behind and editor for the series at this point. Considering Rock didn't have a particularly strong character at this point, it would be reasonable to assume that a lot of Rock's opinions on the cats are actually Vicky's own opinions, and those opinions are much more likely to be taken as gospel by a fandom, especially one that only ever hears this information second, third, fourth, or fifth hand. A lot of the biases and opinions this book presents are ones I have heard told as fact in various fandom spaces, which may show the impact that even this guidebook could have on the fanbase over a decade later. It's really just food for thought though, with little judgment made. As I mentioned briefly in the beginning of the video, there is another manga coming up next that was released on the same day as this guide, but with Greystripe's arc finished, it won't be an entry in that series. Some of you may already know the next topic and central cat, but I will hold off on speaking on it until we reach the next episode. For now, I will let the stories of these historic cats linger in your mind as we await the next episode of our trip through time.